Protea nana. Protea nana, also known as the mountain rose or mountain rose sugarbush, is a flowering shrub which belongs within the genus Protea. Common names. In the Afrikaans language, the following vernacular names have been recorded for this plant: bergroes, weerbergroes, scamblum, scamroos, and scamrosi. The name scamblum translates as shy or bashful flower, and possibly refers to the nodding, downward-pointing inflorescences. It was first attested in the 1929 article titled Juan Plant Name in Die District Riverstal by Muir in Die Huisgenoot. Taxonomy. The species was first described according to the modern Linnean system as Leucadendron nanum by Peter Jonas Burgius in 1766. 5 years later, Linnaeus described the same species as Protea rosacea, a heterotypic synonym. It had already been described before these two authors as Thymlia ethiopica, Iatiforiae floribus phoenicis in a 1700 work by Leonard Plukenet. In 1781, Carl Peter Thunberg moved the taxon to the genus Protea. It was originally described as occurring in the mountains of the Rud-Zant region, an area which is now known as Witzenberg. Etymology. The specific epithet nana is derived from the Latin word for dwarf, and this was chosen in reference to the relatively small inflorescences. Description. Protea nana grows as a small shrub which is shaped roundish in profile, is highly branched, and becomes 1.3 m high. In cultivation, plants live up to approximately 10 years. The branches curve gracefully outward when laden by blooms. They are colored green when young and in their first season, but turn red in the following season, eventually turning brown when mature. The leaves are glabrous, colored deep green, soft and needle-shaped. These needles all curve upwards and are about 18-30 mm long and 1.015 mm wide. It blooms in midwinter to early summer, primarily from July to October, but more broadly from June to November. The plant is monoecious with both sexes in each flower. The inflorescences are subtended by oval-shaped, bright red to crimson bracts, within which numerous, much shorter, crimson-colored flowers reside. The color may also vary from burgundy or a dirty, faded red to pale green. These inflorescences are cup-shaped, pendulous pointed downward, and nod in the wind. The flowers have a characteristic yeasty odor. The fruits ripen after some 7 months. The fruits are woody and persistent, which means they are retained on the plant after senescence. The seed is kept within the dry fruit for several years, and when finally released after the plant burns and dies. This is known as fire-mediated serotiny. The seeds are spread to new growing sites by means of the wind. These seeds are small and light, and covered with a pappus of fine hairs. The temperatures dropping at night appears to stimulate germination. It has protoid, cluster roots which form a mat only a few centimeters thick, which is found just below the surface of the soil. Distribution. The plant is endemic to the Western Cape province of South Africa and is found from the Groot-Winterhoek Mountains through the Du Toits Mountains to the Skouwerberg near Ceres. It occurs near the towns of Porterville, Ceres, Paarl, Tulbagh, and Worcester. It is usually found occurring in a large number isolated stems. Ecology. The plant grows on mountain slopes at altitudes of 400 to 900 meters. It prefers a fynbos habitat and is found growing on granite-based or sandstone-based substrates. It grows on both dry sand or moist, peaty loam. It prefers a slightly acidic soil as substrate. The fynbos soils where it grows are very phosphorus deficient. Potential wildfires destroy the plant, but the seeds are able to survive such an event. The leaves have evolved to be long and narrow to conserve water and survive the hot, and dry summers of the fynbos. In 1998, it was still unknown what creatures might be responsible for the pollination, and the flowers produce very little nectar compared to other Protea. The nectar is, however, fortified with a high sugar content. The sugars include xylose. The downward pointing shape, the odd yeasty odor, high sugar content, and the flowering time in late winter all indicate pollination by rodents. Animals which have now been recorded as visiting the flowers are, besides sunbirds, the rodent species Otomys irroratus, Michaelames namaquensis, Rhabdomys pumilio, and Myomiscus verroei. Each of these rodents were found with this plant's pollen on their noses or in their scat. M. verroei is the best at climbing and is thought to be the main pollinator. Rhabdomys pumilio, on the other hand, was sometimes found to be quite destructive of the inflorescences in a laboratory setting. In the field, on average, 20% of the inflorescences are destroyed within a 2-month period, and this mouse is thought to be likely responsible. The xylose in the nectar can be metabolized by the intestinal microbiotic flora of the small mouse Michaelames namaquensis. Otomys irroratus does not appear to pollinate the flowers. Despite the rodent pollination, when researchers placed the plants in wire mesh cages to exclude rodents and birds but allow access to insects, the plants were still able to set seed in appreciable amounts, something which was not the case when insects were excluded as well, indicating rodents are usually only partially responsible for pollinating this species. Uses. It keeps well as a cut flower. Horticulture. Although Protea nana is a fast-growing and handsome species, it is a short-lived and difficult plant to cultivate under ordinary garden conditions. It is best grown in tall containers on slopes, raised embankments, or in rock gardens to better enjoy the nodding flower heads. In cultivation, it is best grown in heavy, low-nutrient, but well-drained soils. It is best propagated by seed, but top cuttings can root when applied with growth hormones and kept for a few months in a well-drained substrate with ground heating. Seeds sprout best in a well-drained, coarse, sandy, acidic, sterile soil. Seeds start to germinate after some 6 weeks. Young plants are best grown out in a shade house. The plants can be lightly pruned to encourage branching and produce more flowers. The plants are sensitive to high levels of phosphates in normal fertilizer. Root fungi such as Phytophthora or Armillaria can be deadly. Conservation. The population of this species is believed to be stable, and the South African National Biodiversity Institute has assessed the conservation status of the species as least concern since 2009. It grows fairly abundantly in protected areas. Gallery. == References ==